Content being sent to a third party, it is given, okay?
Where are you pressing on the record?
No, there is no such a thing called record now, just now. I don't know where it went.
This is YouTube. You are the co-host, so you can just see record.
Not to the cloud. Shall I switch that? Shall I press that?
No. Then I'll do the recording also. And
Okay.
Yeah, let's start, Jamila.
Okay. So warm welcome and greetings to all the AIWC members, our well-wishers and guests who have joined us on this platform. A good evening to you all. And I'm sure you must all, those of you who joined us in the last session, must be eagerly anticipating the second part of India and what India is today. Dr. Chitra V.R., who works at the University College. She's an associate professor there and has done her PhD in generic configurations from a comparative perspective, a study of the political novels of Gabriel Garcia Marquez and Salman Rushdie. So she is here to give us another talk under our literary and cultural forum, Midnight's Children, a magical microcosm of India's birth. So welcome, Chitra, to this forum. And thank you for agreeing to do another part of India. And as we discussed, India's history and India's culture is so varied and so broad. It was difficult to compress it all into one session. So that is why we decided to go for two parts when we were talking of our own country. I think Chitra will, in this part, begin with the Midnight's Children, that is with India's independence in 1947, and the midnight on August 15th, when India became independent and threw off the foreign yoke and became what we call today a post-colonial country. How far India is a post-colonial country is a debatable point, because have we really been able to throw off the colonial yoke? But nevertheless, during the last 75 years, we have found that India has made immense progress in different fields of disciplines, and we have been able to emerge as one of the foremost countries who could take up a leadership for the G20 countries. And we also know that India, by January 2024, has been recognized as the 12th powerful nation in the world and is one of the India is today one of the GDP ranking countries after USA, China, Japan, and Germany. That is, India is the 5th high-ranking country in terms of GDP of the world. India is also what stands for most in literacy, 77.7% in 2023. And according to data, 2023 again, only 29% of women in India are digitally literate. So there is what we would call a setback there as well. And we should be investing more in women's empowerment. And such forums as these, the AIWC, should be looking at, AIWS should be looking at the empowerment of women with more, I think, energy. And the International Women's Day, which is going to come up soon, next month, has as its theme, Invest in Women, Accelerate Progress. So it has become a human rights issue as well. Investing in women is going to bring bigger challenges to India, but also going to take India forward. Apart from this, I'm sure Chitra is also going to tell us about the rich heritage and the culture and the writers who have made India known to the rest of the world. The UNESCO World Heritage Site has identified many famous Indian heritage monuments. And we know that Taj Mahal, the Golden Temple, the Meenakshi Temple in Madurai, the Mysore Palace, the Red Fort in Delhi, and we have so many others which stand up high and tall, declaring India as a country that has emerged as one to be recognized. And more than that, we have had our space programs, and we have made a successful launch to the moon through Chandrayaan-3, and ISRO is planning to launch multiple space exploration missions. So here is the India that is post-independence, and we have carved a place for ourselves in world economics, in world history, but we need to do much more. India's poverty and India's malnutrition have been highlighted almost every time we talk about India's development. And I think these are concerns that are very serious and we need to address them. Perhaps such seminars and conferences of this nature, I'm sure, will make the people here understand and find new solutions for these problems. And I am sure that a concerted effort by AIWC, sorry, I get it wrong because I had another conference with AIWS. So AIWC, I'm sure, is going to emerge as one of the foremost organizations which will take up these issues with greater determination and see that women come to the forefront and take the leadership and accelerate progress. So with these words, I would like to warmly welcome Chitra once again to our forum and request her to take on the proceedings.
Thank you so much, ma'am. You have already set the tone for the presentation, and almost, the things that I meant to tell, you have already said. So there is nothing more I think will be there in my presentation because you have such a lovely introduction you have given. And thank you so much for giving me a space once again for giving another, it's not a talk, but only simply sharing my ideas to the learned or scholarly audience. That's all. The first part of my talk was titled as From Raj to Republic, India's Cultural Tapestry and Evolving Literary Landscape, which try to look at the early phase of India's history. Not only history, but culture and literary landscape up to the independence and partition. And I think I stopped with partition during the last talk. And also I was discussing India's position as a member of G20 nation. But this talk is titled as Midnight Children, Magical Microcosm of India's Birth. I deliberately brought in the work Midnight Children written by the Indian English writer Salman Rushdie. Because I'm not, however, I don't intend to give an academic presentation about Midnight Children, but I'll be speaking generally about certain concepts, certain themes related to India as a nation, which is reflected in the work Midnight Children. And also, this is only meant to trace the trajectory of India's history, culture, and literary landscape till date. And when I use the term Midnight Children, I meant it to refer to the group of children who are born at midnight, because I deliberately did not italicize the work because I meant it to be children who are born at the same time as India's independence. And maybe perhaps I must say India is also a midnight child. So that is what I meant by the title. And it also tells a story of, the novel tells a story of a child, a protagonist named as Salim Sinai, who was born at the stroke of the midnight on August 15, 1947, along with 1,001 children. That is why it is called Midnight Children. And though the numbers of the children got reduced to 581 later, it remained as 1,001 at the time of its birth. So, Midnight Children actually embody the hopes and challenges of a newly formed nation. Each child's unique power reflects a facet in India's society, highlighting its complexities and potential. So, that is why I tried to place Rushdie's Midnight Children in this talk. So, that is my introduction about it. and good evening, one and all. I should have told that earlier. And let me go on to my presentation with your permission. I hope it's okay, ma'am.
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah, go ahead, Chitra.
It's working, isn't it, ma'am? Okay. So let us look at the historical context of colonialism. Because midnight children, not only midnight children, but now we are going to look at the post-independence scenario of India. So we have to understand a bit about the historical context of which we all very well know. Still, the impact of colonial rule on India's history and society was profound and complex, with both positive and negative consequences, as we all know. The negative impacts were definitely economic exploitation, resources got drained, famines worsened, traditional industries were destroyed, political subjugation was there with the divide and rule tactics, then which eventually led to rise of nationalism. Then the social societal structures were disrupted, traditional hierarchies were strengthened, caste system got rigidified, cultural alienation was there. And then coming to the positive impacts, we can, if we look at India's scenario, we can see that there was modernization, infrastructure development. The British brought in, they have introduced railways, communication, administrative systems. Then when you look at education, we can see with the introduction of Western education system, there was a rise of a new middle class. Then, after the introduction of certain social reforms like abolition of sati, the scenario improved a little bit, and the period saw some improvements in women's rights and legal reforms. So, if you look at the overall picture, we can see that the British Raj in India had a significant impact on the country's political, social, and economic structures. There was a period of immense change and upheaval, shaping India's trajectory into the modern world. And of course, coming to the partition of India in 1947 was the division of British India into two independent dominions, as we all know, India and Pakistan, which was based on religious lines, with India having a majority Hindu population and Pakistan majority Muslim population. And this event led to the mass violence and displacement, with estimates of about 15 million people being killed and 14 million being displaced. So the aftermath of partition had a profound impact on both the countries. In India, it led to the creation of a secular state and the integration of millions of Hindu and Sikh refugees. In Pakistan, it led to the creation of an Islamic state and the integration of millions of Muslim refugees. It also had a lasting impact on the relationship between India and Pakistan. The two countries have fought 4 wars since their independence, and the issue of Kashmir remains a major source of tension even now. Now, the British Raj in India had a significant impact on the country's political, social, and economic structures too. Colonialism reshaped the Indian subcontinent, leading to cultural and territorial divisions that continue to pose challenges. The legacy of colonialism left a lasting imprint on India's governance, legal systems, and social norms. I think we should. I have given some milestone events in the slides, that is, which happened in the post-independent India. That is from early years, 1947 to 1960s. We can see after India got independence from the British rule, partition was there with Pakistan. Then violent clashes resulted. Then 1948 saw the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi. 1950, adoption of the constitution establishing India as a republic. 1950s, 5-year plans were launched to boost industrialization and infrastructure. 1961, annexation of Goa from the Portuguese rule. In 1962, so no Indian war, then we saw the military defeat by China. Then 1964 to 65 saw the Green Revolution, which increased agricultural productivity. And when you look at the political tensions and growth in the country during this period from 1960s to 80s, we can see 1965 saw the Indo-Pakistani war over Kashmir. Then 1971, yet another war, resulting in the liberation of Bangladesh, and again a war with Pakistan, but it was on a different issue, not of Kashmir issue. Then 1975 to 77 saw emergency rule imposed by Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, suspending civil liberties. 1980s saw the rise of Hindu nationalism, and 1984 saw the assassination of Indira Gandhi. Looking at the economic reforms and the technological advancements from 1990s to the present, we can see from 1991, there was liberalization of economy, leading to the rapid economic growth. Then 98 saw the first nuclear tests at Pokhran, raising international tensions. 2001, information technology boom was there, transforming the economy. Then 2008 saw that India survived the global financial crisis relatively untouched. Then 2014 saw a shift towards, again, right-wing politics, and 2019 saw Chandrayaan-1 lunar mission launched, showcasing scientific progress. And in 2020, we saw COVID-19 pandemic. Then the cultural shifts, major cultural shifts that happened during this period was the growth of Bollywood film industry and its global influence, increased access to education and changing social norms, rise of regional identities and languages, growing religious polarization and debates about secularism. So now when you look at the post-colonial India, so the post-colonial India definitely faced a lot of hurdles, and it encountered many challenges in India's development. And this period saw a resurgence of traditional art, literature, and cultural exchanges, symbolizing a kind of reawakening. And this period also saw the formation of political ideologies and governance getting worked. So again, I'm bringing Midnight Children here because to point the relevance of Midnight Children as a post-colonial novel, and why I am again and again speaking of Midnight Children is that Midnight Children is considered as a landmark post-colonial novel due to its complex engagement with the themes of identity, history, and also the power structures in the context of India's post-independence journey. And it subverts the idealized narratives of Britain in the colonial literature, exposing the kind of exploitation that India faced, cultural suppression, and political manipulation left behind by the Raj. And this work also critiques the inequalities and injustices perpetrated to by the dominant powerful structures, both internally and externally, advocating for a more equitable future. So I'm not actually going into the details of this novel, but I've already mentioned the protagonist's name, Salim Sinai. And in this novel, Salman Rushdie is setting up a complex and layered story, weaving elements of magical realism and historical fiction. Magical realism is something which is a mix of fantastical elements with the realistic elements, and is a device used by Rushdie in order to pitch the harsh realities of the post-colonial, post-independent India. So Salim Sinai, the protagonist and narrator of the story, is a complex figure who is representative of the new nation of India in many ways. Salim struggles with feelings of isolation and fragmentation, which also plague the young country. As he narrates his own story, Salim often reflects on the ways in which his experiences parallel events in India's history. And the book is also, it is more than just a magical coming of age tale, because Rushdie explores the disruption and violence that followed India's independence and the ways in which this tumultuous period impacted ordinary citizens. And this is evident in many of the incidents which are parallel to the history, which happened in the history of India's, in India's history. For example, the Sinai's family, they migrated from Bombay to Agra. This reflects the movement of refugees across borders. Then the 1965 Indo-Pakistani War is experienced intensely by Salim, mirroring national anxieties and highlighting the ongoing conflict over Kashmir. And in the novel, the liberation of Bangladesh in 1971 is being celebrated. It is being while it is being celebrated, it also raises complex questions about identity and belonging, especially refugees coming from Bangladesh. They are infiltrating the northeastern parts of India, and the recent internal conflicts in the region All these things bear testimony to this. Then the imposition of emergency rule in 1975 with the suppression of civil liberties is also a pivotal moment for Salim, and it also symbolizes the authoritarian turn of the regime. Then the rise of consumerism and economic modernization are reflected in Salim's experiences in Bombay, contrasting with the poverty and inequality he witnesses. And the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi in 1948 cast a long shadow in the narrative, representing the loss of national unity and ideals. And the rise of Hindu nationalism and its potential dangers are also being hinted in the novel through the characters and events. So these are some of the reasons why I'm trying to look at the post-colonial India through this post-colonial novel, Midnight's Children. And again, if you look at the key themes and characters, one of the most significant themes in Midnight's Children is a matter of identity. Rushdie navigates questions of both individual and national identity, inextricably linking Salim's sense of self with the larger story of India's independence. Consequently, the novel raises questions about how we understand and interact with our own history and the extent to which one's environment shapes one's sense of self. And another key theme in the novel is the idea of fragmentation. Many elements within the novel seem to be disjointed, and it looks like a kind of kaleidoscopic storytelling, which is again pointing to the geographical division of India and Pakistan. And some criticisms are there related to this fragmentation, saying that this fragmentation symbolizes the chaos that enveloped South Asia after gaining independence, while others suggest that fragmentation speaks more broadly to the messy and multifaceted nature of the realities in India itself. So, one of the key historical context that informs Midnight's Children is the partition of India in 1947. And the novel deals with the birth of independent India and Pakistan, and the subsequent upheaval and societal changes. And it was also, if you examine the post-colonial context, we can see that it was becoming increasingly common for authors from Asia, Africa, and Caribbean to write back against colonialism and give voice to perspectives marginalized by the Western literary canon. So Salman Rushdie himself was keen to push the boundaries with his work, and by resorting to many kinds of experimentations and non-linear storytelling, etc., in order to pitch this historical context. Another way of understanding the context of Rushdie's novel is to examine other books being written around the same time. Notably, the early 1980s marked the beginning of magic realism movement. It started way back in 1960s, but a boom was there in 1980s with works such as Gabriel Garcia Marquez and his very famous Nobel Prize winning work, 100 Years of Solitude. So from partition to emergency, Rushdie covers many of the most significant events in India's recent history through the lens of Salim's unconventional life. And of course, he is using magic realism to intertwine the fantastical with the factual in a way that makes both seem believable with the context of the novel. And another thing that he uses is symbols. And many of the events, objects, and characters in Midnight's Children can be interpreted as allegorical stand-ins for the broader themes and concepts related to India. The writer is self-consciously symbolizing the hopes and struggles of a new nation through the midnight child, Salim Sinai. So if you look at Midnight's Children's relevance today, some critics have interpreted Midnight's Children as an allegory for the birth of modern India. They argue that many disjunctures and shifts in the novel reflect the chaotic transformations that the country underwent in the years following its independence. And others, on the contrary, see the novel as a critique of neo-colonialism that continued to pervade India even after the departure of the British. And in this reading, these characters are seen as struggling to free themselves from the grip of external forces, even as they attempt to forge new identities in a changing world. Now, already we know the historical context of partition, and the partition of India left a deep scar on the collective psyche, and numerous literary works have captured the human experience of this tumultuous period. The sudden violence and displacement shattered personal histories, leaving individuals with fragmented memories of loss, fear, and upheaval. Then traumatic experiences also led to selective memories where some details became vivid while others remained buried. Then trauma endured by the individuals was also passed down to subsequent generations, shaping their identities and perceptions. Difficult experiences during partition led to silences and taboos also within the families, hindering open communication and healing. Both India and Pakistan constructed dominant narratives of the partition, often neglecting the individual experiences and perpetuating division. The portrayal of others as enemies fueled communal violence and continues to influence intergroup relations even today. So the lack of comprehensive efforts to address and acknowledge the trauma that has left deep wounds within both societies is to be noted. The partition's legacy continues to influence regional politics, regional religious tensions, and the sense of national identity. So, literature challenges such simplistic portrayals of the partition, reflecting diverse experiences and perspectives. It deals with the questions of cultural identity, belonging, and finding home in a divided world. Partition, because partition solidified national identities, which were based on religion, leading to the strengthening of central governments and increased emphasis on national unity. India adopted a secular constitution while Pakistan became an Islamic state, shaping societal structures and influencing individual rights. Partition triggered mass migration, leading to urbanization in some areas and changes in the rural demographics and economies. Partition was based on religious lines, as I said earlier, creating a sharp divide between Hindus and Muslims in both countries, with lingering tensions and occasional outbreaks of violence. Within India and Pakistan, ethnic and linguistic differences remain, sometimes leading to separatist movements and internal conflicts. Then the unresolved Kashmir issue continues to be a major source of tension between India and Pakistan, impacting regional security and diplomatic relations. Partition exacerbated existing social and economical inequalities, creating disparities in access to resources and opportunities. So personal loss and trauma was individuals experienced this due to displacement, separation from families, and violence impacting their relationships and emotional well-being. Religious prejudice. Besides, there was a religious prejudice and distrust, and it fueled such things between the communities, impacting social interactions and hindering reconciliation efforts. And the one positive thing that can be seen from this partition is that it led to the creation of a large diasporic communities in various countries, shaping their cultural identities and fostering connections with their homeland. So if you look at the partition literature plays a crucial role in capturing the human experience of a 1947 division, highlighting not just the trauma and loss, but also remarkable stories of resilience, survival, and reconciliation. And the typical notable works I've already mentioned during the last talk, Train to Pakistan by Kushman Singh. There are many more, but I am only highlighting the major works, which is a harrowing novel depicting the violence and chaos of partition through the eyes of a Hindu businessman. Then Ice Candy Man is by Bapsi Sidhwa. It is a coming of age story showcasing the innocence lost and resilience gained by a young Parsi girl amidst the turmoil. Then another work called Thamas by Visham Sani, a haunting account of the partition through the eyes of a Hindu family caught in the midst of communal riots in Punjab. Then Pinjar, of course, written by Amrita Preetham, a powerful poetic collection by lamenting the loss of loved ones and psychological scars, depicting the psychological scars of the partition. Then, of course, short stories written by Manto, Sadat Hasan Manto, who is renowned for his unflinching depictions of human cruelty. Then his short stories explore the absurdity and the horror of the Pakistan. So these are some of the works which explore themes of loss, cultural displacement, family separation, religious tensions, and search for identity. But of course, and it also looks into the displacement, the forced migrations, and the psychological and emotional repercussions, and the longing for lost homes, and the quest for belonging. And many stories also showcases the resilience and hope of ordinary people amidst difficult circumstances. So, since I was mentioning about diaspora, which is the aftermath of partition effect. So, Indian diaspora, with over 29 million individuals spread across the globe, exhibits diverse patterns in settlement, demographics, and integration. And, its origin started with the indentured labor in the 1800s. Now, but it is now driven by education, work opportunities, and family reunification. Indian diaspora is found in over 130 countries with large communities in US, UK, UAE, Canada, and South Africa. And they represent various religions, languages, and cultures adapting to the culture of the foreign country, at the same time trying to preserve their traditions also. And they contribute significantly to the economies of the nations they are in, and the societies also. They contributes a lot to the societies of their adopted countries while maintaining ties to India. So around 2.5 million Indians migrate annually, seeking better opportunities and contributing to the global talent pool. These migrants often belong to the second or third generation of the diaspora, and they are most of them are raised overseas, but they are connected to their heritage. So what I was trying to tell is that the cultural landscape of the post-independent India is a vibrant terrain uh, which was formed by continuity and change, reflecting the nation's complex journey since 1947. And at this point, I would like to mention Indian cinema, because Indian cinema also evolved along with the evolution of India. It has evolved from humble beginnings to become a vibrant, diverse, and influential global force. Its journey reflects the nation's history, culture, and aspirations, continuing to captivate audiences with this rich repository of stories, music, and emotions. And of course, Midnight Children was also adapted to a movie by Deepa Mehta. It was released in 2012, and the screenplay was written by Salman Rushdie himself. So we can see both the novel and the film explore themes of identity, history, magic, and the complex relationship between individual and nation. So if you look at the evolution of Indian cinema, it happened in three phases. That the silent era was there, then the golden age, and then the modern cinema. So when you look at the early glimmers of Indian cinema, we can see in 1896, Lumiere Brothers screening sparked interest in India also. In 1913, Dada Sahib Phalke, who is considered as the father of Indian cinema, releases Raja Harishchandra, which is considered as the first Indian film. Then during the silent era, mythological and social themes dominated with influences from Western cinema. In 1931, Alam Ara becomes the first Indian sound film, ushering in the golden age. And this golden age witnessed diverse genres like social dramas, romances, and historical epics. Legendary directors like Satyajit Ray, Guru Dutt, and Bimal Roy emerged, pushing artistic boundaries. International recognition also came with Satyajit Ray's Apu trilogy and the films like Mother India. Bollywood, the Hindi film industry, became synonymous with Indian cinema globally. Then, regarding or when you look at the experimentation and change from 1970s to 1990s, we can see there was parallel cinema also focusing on realism and social critique, and it gained much prominence. Genres like action, comedy, and thrillers also evolved alongside the mainstream masala films. Regional cinema also flourished, showcasing diverse languages and cultures. Bollywood saw the rise of superstars like Amitabh Bachchan and Shah Rukh Khan. And when you come to the modern age, we can see from 2000 to the present time, there was a growing emergence of multiplexes and digital technology revolutionizing viewing and production. Then globalization led to cross-cultural collaborations and international appeal. Independent cinema thrived, exploring contemporary themes and diverse narratives. Then streaming platforms also further expanded the reach and content availability. Then Indian cinema's influence transcends borders, attracting audiences worldwide. Bollywood dance and music also have gained immense popularity, even inspiring Hollywood adaptations. Film festivals also showcase Indian talent internationally, and Indian filmmakers collaborate with foreign counterparts, bringing global stories to life. So, Indian cinema has captivated audiences worldwide, influencing global filmmaking. It serves as a cultural ambassador, fostering understanding and appreciation of Indian culture. Indian film techniques and styles have also inspired filmmakers across the globe. And the cinema reflects the cultural nuances, traditions and values of Indian society. It mirrors the evolving dynamics and complexities of Indian society and its people. The diversity of storytelling in Indian cinema captures various societal perspectives. Now, if you look at the literary scenario of India, I mean, if you look at the regional literature, we can see writers like Arundhati Roy, Perumal Murugan, and K.R. Meera from Malayalam. They have all gained international acclaim, bringing regional stories and concerns to global attention. And in this regard, translation also plays a multifaceted and crucial role in shaping and enriching India's cultural landscape, both historically and the contemporary world. Translation of epics, like I'm not going to talk much about that because already in my first talk I think I have mentioned all those things elaborately. Ramayana and Mahabharata also into various languages. It helped disseminate cultural values, customs, and stories across vast regions, solidifying a shared cultural identity. Then translations also played a vital role in the exchange of ideas between India and other civilizations, including Islamic texts being translated into Persian and Greek texts translated into Sanskrit. So, translation continues to break down language barriers, making diverse literary works, news, and information accessible to wider audience within India and outside India, fostering inclusivity and understanding. Then, Indian literature, we can see that many of the works are being translated into English and other languages, and most of them have gained global recognition, also showcasing the richness and complexity of Indian stories and experiences to a wider audience. So post-independence literature reflects the rich cultural tapestry of India's diverse regions. Many regions of India experienced literary renaissances, revitalizing indigenous languages and narratives. Contemporary regional literature and culture portray evolving societal influences and expressions in this regard. Then, if you look at the contemporary India's political landscape, it continues to shape its cultural and literary narratives. Cultural shifts and movements reflect the changing dynamics of modern India. The current literary scene in India mirrors societal, cultural, and political shifts of the nation. And it can also be seen that the Indian art, music, and traditions profoundly influence literary works. Local myths, legends, and folk tales still contribute to the diverse storytelling traditions in Indian literature. The coexistence of various religions in India inspires themes of tolerance and spirituality in literature. Then, literature also reflects the changing dynamics and challenges of urban life in rapidly growing Indian cities. The portrayal of women in literature reflects evolving societal rules and challenges. Authors often address issues related to caste system and its impact on society. Dalit literature is an evolving area in this regard. Then, post-independence period witnessed a literary resurgence, a kind of flourishing of Indian literature with a renewed focus on indigenous themes, language, and storytelling. The period after independence witnessed a surge in artistic experimentation, fostering the emergence of diverse styles and forms in Indian art. Artistic and literary movements such as Progressive Writers Movement and the Indian Writers Association also played pivotal roles in shaping the cultural landscape of post-independent India. And post-independence period experienced a renewed openness to global cultures and ideas, enriching its own artistic and literary expressions. India's artists and writers, they interpreted traditional themes and styles by incorporating diverse global influences, resulting in a fusion of creative expressions. Cross-border partnerships and exchange programs also facilitated collaborative artistic endeavors, promoting cultural understanding and creativity. So literature often reacts to the political events and movements, offering insight into the nation's political landscape. The theme of nationalism and patriotism is prevalent in Indian literature, reflecting historical and contemporary nationalistic fervor. The partition of India continues to influence literary narratives even now, examining the human impact of this historic event. The legacy of Indian literature continues to evolve, reflecting the timeless and enduring quality of storytelling in the nation. Indian literature resonates globally, offering insights into the complexities of Indian society and culture. Literature remains integral to the cultural evolution of India, capturing the essence of its growth and diversity. And I may not mention specifically the names of authors, but I am collectively addressing Indian literature. So new voices in Indian literature addresses modern day challenges, identity and globalization. Contemporary literature showcases a diverse range of themes exploring the complexities of modern Indian society. Recognitions and literary awards celebrate the achievements of contemporary authors, highlighting their contributions to Indian literature. The role of Kendra Sahitya Academy in projecting India to the world by promoting Indian literature globally, by engaging with international literary communities and readership. So all these highlights the diverse literary voices and cultural heritage of India. So when you come to the contemporary India, India has experienced a remarkable GDP growth, as Jimena ma'am has mentioned in our introduction, and propelling its economy to become one of the world's largest growing major economies. The nation's industrial sector has undergone substantial growth, contributing significantly to India's economic advancement, especially the five-year plans. India's economic growth has generated numerous employment opportunities, particularly in the technology and service sectors. India has also witnessed a rapid expansion in its IT sector, establishing itself as a global leader in software services and digital innovation. The country's vibrant startup ecosystem has fostered technological innovations across various domains, contributing to its tech-driven growth. India's embrace of digital technologies has also led to widespread digital transformation, revolutionizing industries and services. When it comes to the social changes, so we can see that Indian society has witnessed evolving family dynamics marked by changing roles and structures within the households. The country has also undergone significant educational reforms aiming to enhance accessibility and quality of education for all. Empowerment initiatives have contributed to social changes, fostering greater inclusivity and gender equality also in various spheres. India's focus on renewable energy has intensified, driving sustainable practices and reducing environmental impact. The nation has implemented rigorous conservation efforts to preserve its rich biodiversity and natural resources. Then adoption of sustainable practices in various sectors also reflects India's commitment to environmental preservation and ecological balance. However, coming to the shortcomings of India, that is the flip side of the coin. India faces economic challenges due to factors like unemployment, inflation, and a large informal sector. Infrastructure in India is plagued by problems such as inadequate transportation, power shortages, and insufficient urban planning. Social inequality is evident in India through disparities in education, income, and access to healthcare. And of course, internal and external skirmishes still continue to this day. So, though that is India prioritized pressing global challenges like climate change, pandemic recovery, and sustainable development throughout its presidency, domestic issues like poverty and inequality detracted from India's ability to fully showcase its potential as a leader on the global stage. And there is a criticism leveled against India is that India's G20 agenda was overly influenced by its own geopolitical priorities, limiting its effectiveness in addressing the broader global concerns. And while India's economic and military power is growing, it cannot yet compete with the established global powers like the US and China. So when referring to India in Midnight Children, it is crucial to recognize that it is not just a geographical location, but India is a multifaceted entity deeply intertwined with the narrative. The novel primarily unfolds India's post-independence period, highlighting the turmoil and complexities of partition, political struggles, and societal shifts. Through the character Salim Sinai's life, we experience major events like emergency, Indira Gandhi's assassination, and the rise of communal tensions. India becomes a character itself, its identity constantly evolving and reflecting the challenges and triumphs of its people. So Rushdie utilizes this medium to portray the dynamism of India, with Salim's nose serving as a metaphor for nation's diverse smells and experiences also. So at the same time, Rushdie doesn't shy away from critiquing the societal issues like corruption, poverty, and inequality. And also, he deals with sensitive topics like religious clashes and political manipulation, which is a reality in today's Indian society, offering a critical lens to examine India's social fabric. And Salim's journey embodies the struggles and aspirations of a nation emerging from colonialism, searching for its own voice and place in the world. So, with this, I'm concluding my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chitra, for that very, very interesting talk on the, what you'd say, the post-colonial phase of India's development, struggles, partition, and beginning it with Midnight's Children and ending it with Midnight's Children. A good way to look at India as it is. The India with all its partition and communal riots and communal divisions, one wonders is being taken up again in 2024 with that kind of cultural communal divisions beginning to raise its head. And where is India going to go from here? That's an open question, and that is something which every one of us as Indians should be thinking of. One of the reasons we decided to have India in this series of literary and cultural forum was that it was not just because India was hosting the G20 countries conferences, but rather the feeling that India was coming to have a voice that was to be heard, and a voice which we as Indians felt would be accepted by the world through setting us up as a model or setting us up as a country that has emerged from the partition, the sorrows and the sufferings of partition, and will perhaps go forward into a better future. Now, the future prospects are still dark, as it was dark on that midnight of 1947, August 15th. So this gives us much to think about, and I think Chitra has just opened up that Pandora box for us. And I'm sure that many of you who are attending this would like to pitch in and have their own views, comments, and perhaps a few questions for Chitra as well. So the forum is now open for discussion. Please unmute yourself and ask.
I think Mrs. Meena Agarwal has raised her hand, I think, Jamila.
I think that she must have done it accidentally. It has been up like that for some time.
Okay.
Yes, you can start.
Yeah, hello, Dr. Jamila Vishanayar. Chitra, that was a beautiful presentation. It's such a vast topic. You were able to put them together in 1 hour's time. That is really remarkable. Because we have come a long way right from the partition, so many challenges people faced, division of India into Pakistan and India. All these were really great challenges. And we have come a long way, I should say, as you have said, in energy and in everything, and family dynamics, we have changed a lot. But as Jamila put it, we still have a long way to go. We do not know how our future is going to be. But we can be proud of the fact that we have achieved a lot ever since independence. And you've really touched in all the topics. But the only thing is, it was such a lengthy, deep topic that you managed to bring them in 1 hour's time. So thank you so much. It was nice. Thank you.
Usha Menon says it's a very informative presentation. And we have a message here from Ragini Raj, who says hello to all. And from Padit Baba Khan, who says, very nice presentation. Very sorry that I am to leave now as I have another meeting. So thank you for joining in. Yes. Anyone else would like to say something about the presentation? Something that really intrigued me was, I was looking up at the history of the South Asian countries, and something that really intrigued me was Japan. After the World War, after 35 years, they have emerged as one of the foremost developed countries. But India, after 75 years, still has a long way to go.
Because the attitude of the people is different, ma'am. They are very industrious. They are, they're very exuberant and hardworking.
Yes.
No,
Because
not just that. I
population-
think we have the challenge of wide geographical area and the diversity of the people who are residing in this area, levels of economic growth and of literacy and so many other challenges. Because Japan is just I mean, the total area would be equivalent to one of our larger states.
Yeah.
So that is one of the biggest challenges, and the large population. But I would say that we have done pretty well going by those, if you consider those challenges, we have done.
Yeah, those statistics that we have done pretty well.
A long way.
Yeah.
Population explosion is posing a problem even now.
Yeah, we are still, we have become one of the most populous countries in the world.
Yes, yes. So,
We
it's
must
something
look add to it.
Considering the whole thing, I think India has progressed very well.
yes,
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. But still a long way to go, ma'am, isn't it?
Yeah, still.
That was Sheila Satyanarayana joining from Delhi, I think. Sheila?
yeah, I'm here. I missed the program, so I joined here. I had to go somewhere else.
Conference. We missed you.
No, good. I joined here.
Yes.
I enjoyed the whole thing.
Yeah, thank you for joining.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
Jamila, another thing that struck me was that India being such a diverse country with so many languages, maybe after this series, we should have a series focusing on the regional literature, because we have such rich
Yes.
Yes.
volume of literature in every language. So maybe we could start preparations now, and once the series is over, we'll take up that.
Yes, Alter Academy is really doing a good job here in trying to get some of these works translated into English so that
Yes.
it's a wider audience. And I think that's the one of the ways in which we will be able to reach these regional languages.
Yes,
Like,
must try to do that. After this, we'll try to do that.
And also one thing that I found while I was thinking about India and how it has grown in the last years, one of the things that came to my mind was that it has been the growth of India has always been in terms of spurts, like in say a specific number of years, there is a big development, and then there comes a setback, and again it's a kind of opening up again. So though in space, when we think about ISRO itself, we think that when it began, we had a very I would say very successful space program. Then for some time it took a back shelf. And then again, it's coming up with the Chandrayaan. Recently, there was a debate about how India is spending so much of money for its space programs when poverty is so rampant in India. So how do we balance this? We are looking for development on one hand, and we are also seeing the poverty and the depravity, the fact that not every Indian in India has a house to live in or a place that they can lay their heads. So that is a controversy that has always, I think, been a part of India. On one hand,
but what we should remember is that space research is not just about sending rockets to like Chandrayaan or to the sun, because a major portion of it involves sending satellites to space, helping us to improve our technical expertise and even our connectivity, the and other things. They are all
Real
Similar
estate.
agriculture by weather forecasts.
Yeah, yeah,
yes. So it is
Even
the
communication systems.
must be going those. And
But actually, I find that I'm not a pro Modi, but looking into what has been done, as a lot of women have been inculcated in the Kudumbashri program, which is there all over the country. And microcredit,
Kerala,
the microcredit, it's very important as far as a woman is concerned. Even making 10 paisa or 10 rupees would make a lot of difference in her personality. So a lot of programs have come up for the welfare of the women. So they have their own account in the bank. So that pushes up their self-esteem. That I have an account in the bank. So I did a project under ICSSR. I took the tribal, rural and urban area. When I went to the tribal area, you must see the women, they are so empowered and they are so happy. And they go even at 2 o'clock in the morning to the rubber totem, rubber totem to do something. So they take a torch with them. Torch means the ola, no, with the fire. They don't have a torch with them. They have, what is it called? A branch of a coconut tree.
Yeah, the palm tree lighting.
palm
They
leaf.
light it up and go into the rubber plantation to cut the milk or whatever. 2 o'clock in the morning they go, 3 or 4 of them. So they are all empowered. They know very well. This Kudumbashri program has really empowered the women, I should say. All over the country, we have the small self-help groups. They have
No,
all.
but actually it's a model in Kerala only, but and we have done very well. But now, if you see carefully, I don't know how many of you have noticed, earlier, a few decades back, taking a loan was considered something very shameful. People avoided taking loans and they would not even tell others that they have taken loan because it was considered something very shameful. But now this is only my observation, not any research or anything. In Kudumbashri, what they do is they promote savings, small amounts they put together, and then they lend it to their members. The members are allowed to take loans from there. And then as they grow, they are linked to the banks. Whenever the women, they want to do something on their own, they get loans from the bank to start their small businesses or whatever. And like that, it has been progressing. So now what I see is from the women with whom I interact, like the maids who come to work, the women shopkeepers and others, they have got so used to the idea of taking loans. In Kudumbashri, the conditions are very, very strict. They don't allow them to make default. They have to pay on the dot.
Yes.
Every week.
They are all aware. The members are all very much aware.
No, they have to attend the meetings. If you don't attend the meeting, there is a penalty. If you don't pay installment,
Yes.
and again, this thing of peer pressure. When the others are there, you cannot default because then everybody else will pounce on you. Their condition is that all the members must pay, or if one defaults, the others must contribute and make that payment also. So it is very difficult to make defaults. And in the same way, even the linkages with the bank is controlled by the Kudumbashri, the leaders. So there also it is difficult to make default. But now I see that these women are so used to the idea of taking a loan that they have started borrowing from outside, like from other these lenders and non-banking financial institutions who are all, what we call in Malayalam blade companies. Teasing the women, charging very high rates. And now, they are sort of surviving with by rolling the money. They borrow from one person and pay to the other person. And I think all the women that I come across, at least, they have all taken huge amounts of loan. So they cannot sit at home even for a single day because then they default on their repayments. And these lenders, the private lenders are so bad, they come and sit in their house until they get the money, they will not. Yes. So like many of these women are getting harassed. So I don't know if that is the flip of Kudumbashri in conditioning the way you look at loans I don't know, maybe
Maybe, I don't know. When I was deciding,
But I think, you know, in Kudumbashree, like you said, there is a discipline and the way in which they pay back.
Yeah.
But they get into a lot of these debts, particularly when they want to renovate their house, or they want to so put in something like they want the water in their house. So for that, they take big loans from others. And I think that is where the government should step in, and maybe this year to 2024, you invest more in women, give women more so that they have the facilities that they need to make a home. And then you give them the work, let's say the workforce, to come out and earn their livelihood. I think that is the grassroots level at which we have to work.
a lot of work is required, I think. A lot of work
Yeah.
is required
Yeah.
because they haven't learned the financial discipline.
Yeah.
You know, how to manage their borrowings. And the Kudumbashree gave them a lot of scope for improving their lives.
Yeah.
You know, better education to the
Yes,
children
that's
and
right.
building houses. And they help each other. If somebody is sick and, for example, cancer patient, they all come together and help that person. Or if somebody doesn't have a house, they build a house and give. But then at the same time, it has given them higher aspirations.
Yeah.
The aspirations are sometimes beyond their reach.
Means.
So they try to reach there by borrowing without knowing the dangers of borrowing from private sources. So all these, no, I think we have to build a lot of awareness among these women about financial discipline, because, for example, they get 4 lakhs. If they have a small plot of land, they get 4 lakhs from the government for building a house.
Yeah.
But they go ahead and build houses for 8 lakhs, 9 lakhs. And the difference amount is taken from these private
lenders.
lenders. And, you know, there are big banners. If you see across the city, you can see big banners saying that if you want money, just call this number and you will get, and no paperwork involved and nothing. And, you know, this kind of thing that is going on, I think we should do something.
Not good. Usha, you Santanavelli Chechi wanting to talk there? Santanavelli Chechi? Does she want to talk?
She has not unmuted.
Actually, Chitra raised this issue of diaspora writers, and how diaspora writing now is trying to look back at India, and how the notion of identity, of multiple identities, is emerging. Would you like to comment more on that, Chitra?
Yes, ma'am. I think, you know, referring to the recent migrations of the students in Kerala, you can just, you know, that itself is a classic example of how, you know, people are even now migrating. And somebody was commenting on the media that it is the 5th generation of diaspora. Because already the first 3 generations are there, settled, well settled, and they are now, at the beginning, they were quite, you know, apprehensive of their own positions and their own you know, settlement. And now that they are settled, they are actually inviting the subsequent generations to migrate and maybe to enjoy a good life, perhaps. So yeah,
there is a brain drain actually happening, and this new education policy that is coming in, one wonders that will reverse it, and there is a brain gain. People who have students who have gone out and been educated will come back to teach in the foreign universities. Perhaps India will open up soon.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Foreign universities are coming, and then with NEP also the educational scenario is going to change. So probably, you know, there'll be a reverse migration. We can see that soon.
Yeah, a lot is happening, and India is going through a phase of changes.
Yeah, and in terms of multiple identities, you know, always, you know, this, I don't know whether they are that itself is reflected in the characters of Midnight Children, I feel, ma'am, because you know, that is the cracks which is shown in the picture. The cover page of the novel itself shows the fragmented self, isn't it? So how can one don a single identity there are multiple selves, isn't it? So sometimes adapting, sometimes, fighting with, and
And
sometimes
now,
like
yeah, we are talking about multiple hyphens. At one time, we
multiple.
had only one hyphen, like say
Yeah.
Indian American or Indian
Yes,
Canadian.
yes. Hyphenated
Yeah.
identities are
Yeah,
there
now it is
always.
becoming a multiple hyphenation.
Yeah.
And I think that will be what the world will be. And India, even though we all talk about India as an entity, we have to accept the fact that India has opened up its doors to its youth, and therefore multiple identities begin to emerge. And that is what
Yeah.
reminds me of A.K. Ramanujan has a poem about mother, where he says, do you remember my mother? It's mother talking to her son. Say, do you remember my mother? And my mother used to do this. But the boy says, doesn't say anything. He cannot relate. He doesn't know his mother because his grandmother, because the mother has already left the country when the baby was not even born. So you don't relate back to India again. And you can relate only through a mother figure. So when you talk about Mother India, when you talk about mother strings, new concepts are emerging, and where you don't even remember, or where you cannot recall something that you have never experienced. It's only a hearsay.
That is true.
Absolutely, absolutely, ma'am.
I think that is the world in which we are living today.
Yeah.
So unless there is a comment from Vasanthi Ramesh, who says very informative and a new perception, and goes on to say in Tamil they used to call us Vantu Vadi, Kandu Vadi. Is that correct?
I don't know.
And have been harassed like anything. It is like a money lenders, I think.
Vatti.
Yeah, I think Vasanthi is online and she's
Vasanthi, would you like to say?
only her audio is connected, her video is
Okay.
not connected. I don't know if she can hear us.
Kamini should know it is spelled Kandhu.
I don't know.
Vatti.
Vatti means basket.
No, Vatti means interest.
Oh, I'm not connected to my microphone, she's telling.
She says she's not connected to her microphone.
Yeah,
but
microphone.
it's
No,
written
Vatti is the interest that they charge for the loan.
Okay, so it must be the money lender. She's also
Yeah, the high interest. Yes, what interest? That's what she says. So, like
there are
blade company, that must be a term that is used in Tamil for blade company.
So there are no more questions for Chitra. Thank you so much, Chitra, for coming in and talking to us for 2 sessions, both last month and this month. It has been wonderful listening to you and going back through literature as you went from Midnight Children to the diaspora writers. So it was very nice listening to you. And I'm sure all of you who have joined us on this platform would also have found it very informative and interesting. Thank you, Chitra, for giving us this very interesting talk. And thank you, Usha and AIWC, for giving me this platform to host this series, which is now the 37th session of the Literary and Cultural Forum. Next month is March, and as you all know, it is the month in which we celebrate Women's Day. And maybe we will have something very interesting for everyone next month. Not just our usual lecture. Usual lecture will be on France. This is something I promised Kuljit ji, she's here, that we will have France. So next month, look forward to a presentation on France. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank you so much, Jamila ji, for remembering it. Thanks a lot.
So next month, first Saturday, please log in for our session on France.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure and privilege for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chitra, for for all the effort that you have put in for the presentations. I know many hours of work must have gone into this. You covered such a vast area, and it has sort of renewed our interest, as I just mentioned, in even the regional literature, and just to understand how rich our literary tradition is. And Jamila mentioned about France, so that we'll be continuing the G20 series with France next month. But in addition, we hope to have other webinars also connected to Women's Day, which we'll be discussing and finalizing how to do it in a different way, not the usual celebration of Women's Day. We'll do something interesting. So till then, I thank all of you for joining, and especially Chitra for giving that excellent lecture. Please stay connected with AIWC. We look forward to having you at our other webinars also. I think Jamila has formed a group with all the resource persons of our webinars. So we'll be posting all our invites on that in that group. So you please do join. We keep it at 4:30, hoping that more people will be able to join. Because after, even if it is a working day, they may be able to get home and join us. So thank you, all members of AIWC. Many of you had come to Trivandrum for our annual conference, and we had the privilege of meeting all of you. And especially you all had the privilege of meeting Jamila, whom you had seen only on screen, and Kamini and all others. So thank you so much, and thank you, Kamini, for hosting the session with me. Thank you. See you next month.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
This is Manjula. Thank you, Usha, for inviting me. Thank you.
I didn't recognize because your name is not appearing. She has joined from Calcutta, and she is a regular for our webinars. Thank you, Manjuladi, for joining, and hope you will join us for the next webinars also. We look forward.
These are the one of the wonderful program.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
I am ending the session.